Just to edit.
Hi class. So for today's informative speech, I will be talking to you about the death penalty. Now, what is the death penalty? For me, personally, the death penalty is something that man or woman has to deal with when they commit a harmful act towards another person. For example, taking another person's life away. Now, we must consider this throughout my speech. Is the death penalty really necessary? Is it necessary to take another person's life for that person killing another person? Aren't we repeating the pattern here? There are at most 2,620 individuals in the United States alone that are in death row. These are the people who have either committed a horrible action, have killed people, multiple offenses, we're talking huge. But then you have those percentages of people possibly on death row where they're practically innocent. So, did some research and I found out through the Death Penalty Informative Center that there are at least 5 people that were executed falsely in 2018. What he was trying to state was that these people, these 5 individuals, were killed for an act they did not commit. These people, those 5 people, were taken away from their families and loved ones for something they did not even do. So many innocent people are taken away from their loved ones and their families. For what? In an article Newsweek published, it's called 1 in 25 sentenced to the death in the United States are innocent. In a new study, it claims, the publisher Pema Levy stated, during an interview when she was interviewing the executioner, he stated that the rate of a conviction of a criminal defendant who are truly sentenced, where are they? 41 years unaccounted. All those people that have been put under death row possibly could have been innocent. But there are individuals that have served 20 years to life for an act they were forced to admit that they did. When we view the death penalty, we only educate ourselves what's above the surface. We either put them in the electric chair or we give them lethal injection, right? Wrong. The death penalty is far more serious than that. In countries like Utah, Texas, Kansas, places like that, the death penalty is truly there. They do use that to a full extent. But what they do not understand is that there are people in those states that are truly innocent. Now, when we view the death penalty, we look at it as people that have committed truly a wrongful action. But aren't we doing the same thing? One of those cases, according to Executions of the Innocent, it talked about a person named Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis was falsely, under pressure by the legal system, was forced to admit to a crime that he did not commit. And protesters, rallies, riots, everything. Everybody was out there for him, cheering him on, rooting for him. Even the witnesses, the 9 witnesses that stood there and pointed the finger at Mr. Davis said he was the one. He was the one that did those actions. But that wasn't the case. That was not the case. 7 of those 9 individuals withdrew their statement. They said, we did not testify correctly. They withdrew their testimony. But unfortunately, by then, Mr. Davis had to face death, which was tragic because his family lost him. His loved ones lost him. But did the legal system care? We will never know. unless we educate ourselves about the legal system and the death penalty. Now, out of all of those cases, to me, Troy Davis really stood out because unfortunately, in his case, he had to be put under pressure to admit to an act that he did not commit. According to Google.com, in the first level of cruelty, Mr. Davis and Mr. Graham, one of which had to face the death penalty. Under what? Under pressure. So, going back to the amendments, constitutions, the things that really hold the U.S. down, the Constitution states in the 8th Amendment, no one is allowed cruel punishment, while the 4th and 5th Amendments state that everyone is entitled to a proper interrogation, proper level of viewing the evidence. Everybody has their right to speak and present their case. But unfortunately, that was not the case for these people. Now, we're going to talk about another person named Michelle. Michelle was only 17 years old in 1995. And she was forced to admit to a crime she truly did not commit and is serving 20 years in jail. She was 17 years old, and one day she woke up and found her son dead on the floor. Crying, hysterical, emotional. The police took her in. And they didn't interrogate her properly. Without a parent present, without anybody present, they threatened her to give her the lethal injection, to put her in the electric chair. For what? For an act she did not commit. That's very tragic. And unfortunately, she had to be sentenced to 20 years to life, possibly without parole. Now, as a conclusion to my statement here that I'm trying to give more information about, where was the justice system? Where were these people when we needed them the most? Before we agree to end a life of a person that has ended another person, we must stop and educate ourselves before we agree with anything. To wrap up my speech, I want to give you guys something to think about, truly. Before we accuse someone of a crime, should we not look into both perspectives? We must dig into the root of the problem before saying that someone is guilty, giving them that injection, or putting them in the electric chair. Everybody has a right to be educated about the legal system, about the death penalty, and all the cruelties, the harsh punishments that these individuals have to face. Thank you so much, class, for joining me on my presentation.